Tonight on Newsnight Scotland, are football fans losing trust in the police? These angry exchanges between Celtic fans and police were followed by angry exchanges between the government and opposition MSPs. We look at claims that police are misusing the government's anti-sectarian laws. Good evening. 2 years ago, after a particularly tempestuous Celtic Rangers Cup tie, the one when Neil Lennon and Ali McCoy squared up to each other, Alex Salmond convened a summit of clubs and the police. The outcome was the controversial Offensive Behaviour at Football Act. Since its passing, fans of both clubs have complained of police targeting and harassment. Today, the issue returned to Parliament when Labour MSPs questioned the policing of an unofficial protest march organised by a group of Celtic supporters at the weekend. Willie Johnston takes up the story.
Against how fans are being treated since the introduction of the government's Offensive Behaviour Act, aimed at ridding the game of sectarian abuse. But they hadn't applied for permission to demonstrate from Glasgow City Council, as the law requires. In the Gallagher, scores of uniformed police surrounded the fans in a tactic known as kettling and made 13 arrests. The police response has been condemned as disproportionate.
I was shocked when I saw the photographs and some of the video footage in connection with it, in the sense that there seemed to be a massive overreaction by Strathclyde Police.
The controversial kettling incident took place here and involved up to 200 officers. Strathclyde Police have defended their actions, saying they were faced with an illegal procession and dealt with it in a professional and proportionate way. Officers, they say, showed great restraint given the level of aggression and abuse they faced. The Justice Secretary also defended the police response under questioning in Parliament today.
None of the charges emanating from Saturday relate to the offensive behaviour at football match. They relate to matters whether misuse of drugs, breach of the peace or other public order matters.
Mr McCaskill was accused of missing the point.
Sadly, it is now being widely alleged by not only fans, but QCs and independent legal advisers who attended on Saturday, that the event was met with the very harassment, victimisation and disproportionate actions from the police, which the fans were protesting against in the first place.
I too have received complaints over the last few months from constituents, but from Rangers supporters as well as Celtic supporters. It has been suggested that the legislation introduced is being used to harass football fans, not to deal with illegal behaviour.
Celtic joined the debate with this statement. The club is very concerned to see imagery of Saturday's march by members of the Green Brigade from Gallowgate to Celtic Park, and subsequent claims by supporters of police harassment and heavy-handed policing. We will be writing to the Chief Constable to ask for a full report on Saturday's events. Those events have brought to a head simmering discontent by some that the Act is in danger of criminalising ordinary football fans in the way it's been drafted and now policed.
If the police are going to begin to behave in a manner similar to the way they behaved on Saturday with any football supporters or any group, no matter who they are, then it is certainly not dissimilar to the situation that one remembers in years gone by in Russia and the likes.
The police were left with absolutely no choice. They asked the people to stand down. They informed them that it was an illegal procession. If they wanted to have a protest, they should do it in a normal manner. It's not safe for ordinary members of the public to suddenly gather, put on their scarves, put on their hoodies and walk down the street. Apart from anything else, it terrifies the life out of the normal members of the public who are walking by, because they don't know what's going on. And there's a health and safety aspect. Do they walk onto the road? Who's going to stop the traffic? Who's going to maintain the road junctions when these people walk on? It's not safe and it's not acceptable.
The Act was written in a hurry in the aftermath of a series of controversial Old Firm matches, including the one featuring this touchline altercation. Critics say it was too rushed, that there's a lack of clarity about what is and isn't an offence, and police are losing fans' trust. But the Justice Secretary says it's working.
We do believe that the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act is working well. 84% of those who have been dealt with under it have been convicted, and I think Scottish sport and Scottish football is a better place for it.
Well, Willie Johnson compiled that report. I'm joined now from Dundee by Stuart Wayton, the author of Snob's Law, Criminalising Football Fans in an Age of Intolerance, and here in Glasgow by Les Gray, who you saw in the film. He's the immediate past chairman of the Scottish Police Federation and a strong supporter of the anti-sectarianism legislation about which some fans are protesting. Well, Les Gray, we heard what you had to say there. Are you saying that these politicians have simply got this wrong when they complain about the treatment that was meted out?
In relation to this particular incident, yes. This incident has nothing to do with the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act. This was merely a public order incident. We have a crowd of people here who have gathered and decided to have an unofficial protest. And for people who think, well, where's the harm in that? There's a huge amount of harm in that, because what if we've got other organisations who decide to do this week in, week out? First of all, the police couldn't cover it. Secondly, there's a huge health and safety issue with these people, and as I said earlier on, who decide to walk down the street. Who's going to police that? Who's going to police the traffic? What if somebody gets knocked down? Okay. And what if there's a secondary demonstration counter to that, and they all meet in the middle?
Well, Stuart Wayton, we'll come on to the broader point in a moment, but just specifically on this march, do you consider there's any substance to the complaints about the way it was handled?
Yeah, some substance, I think. I think it's useful to try and put it in some sort of context. To start with, why were they demonstrating? Why did they feel the need to demonstrate? Why has the Green Brigade boycotted 3 matches already this season? Yeah, but
just on the narrow point that Les Gray was making, I mean, I'm sure lots of citizens of the UK feel the need to demonstrate about things. That doesn't mean they can just go out in the street and do it without getting permission from the relevant local authority.
No, you know, there's a debate to be had there, but I suspect if this was Greenpeace or some government-friendly campaign who decided just to do this, they wouldn't find themselves being kettled by 200 police. Similarly, I don't think you'd find ordinary people accepting or expecting the level of harassment that the Green Brigade appear to have had for much of this season, which is why they were marching in the first place. It seems very clear to me that this whole initiative has been politicised. Celtic fans and Rangers fans and football fans more generally have been depicted in an appalling way by Alex Salmond and Rosanna Cunningham and others, and consequently they are treated with contempt by the police. But I wouldn't blame the police for that. I would blame the politicians who have really politicised this issue.
Is there any substance to this idea of discrimination? I mean, if on Thursday, when Alex Salmond announces his date for the referendum, a crowd of grateful Scots turns up to applaud him outside the Scottish Parliament and marches around the Green a few times, will they find themselves kettled by the police?
Well, obviously, each incident is treated in its own respect. The incident that we saw the other day there was definitely a serious threat to public order, because this wasn't a crowd of people who turned up handing out flowers and deciding, we'll just go for a wee walk here. The first thing they did when they turned up, according to reports, is they pulled their hoodies up and they put scarves over their faces to cover their identity. Now, right away, as a police officer, if I turn up at that, I'm thinking to myself, why are they doing that? This wasn't just some peaceful protest where they were thinking, we'll just come up here, we'll have our expression of discontent.
Okay, so your view of it is it was planned. Okay, now the underlying issue here, from your dealings with police officers, are they entirely happy about the way that they're being asked to implement this new legislation?
Yes, they have actually.
So you don't think there's any substance to the complaints by organisations like the Green Brigade, but we've also apparently heard it from Rangers fans. They feel they are being targeted.
If the Green Brigade or individual members feel they've got a complaint against the police, then there is a channel for that, to do that. I can assure you that Strathclyde Police, nor any other police service within Scotland, has the manpower or the will to just target people willy-nilly. If the Green Brigade are getting targeted as they say they are, then there'll be good reason for that, and there'll be evidence building to justify that.
Okay, all right. Well, what is the evidence, Stuart Wayton, that fans are being targeted in the way that they weren't before?
Well, I think you could say that this has been happening for a while now in terms of the level of policing and the surveillance that's taking place. But, you know, all I can go by is stories that I hear and contacts that I have in Celtic and Rangers, where there are reports of people being arrested when they come home from holiday, where the police at Celtic Park, they know all the names of the Green Brigade, and they know their family members, and they're name dropping. And there just seems to be quite a significant level of harassment. The extent to which, and I think the police are quite clear about this. I mean, we've got to remember that this bill was passed in part, or arguably in large part, because it was trying to target Celtic fans and their IRA singing and chants. Right? I mean, Alex Salmond specifically said this. Then we get suddenly this section of fans who are seen as, have a sort of Irish Republican side to them, are suddenly appear to be targeted. Sure. So this was written in the bill, essentially.
So is your argument that targeting fans who are making openly sectarian remarks against another religion is all right, but you're worried that, for example, someone who sings an IRA song then gets arrested? Is that the point you're making?
No, well, it's not actually. I don't think you should get arrested for singing songs. I think it's authoritarian. I think it's intolerant. But what's happening here, you could say, is even more problematic, which is things that could be argued are political in terms of chants. I mean, the police themselves said, but very, very few people drew attention to this, but the police did themselves say that they wanted to target what they described as political sectarianism. So whether that's people that sing IRA or UVF songs or whatever, which is obviously that is problematic.
Well, what's your view, Les Gray? I mean, there is an argument that if someone sings an IRA song or shouts up the IRA or even up the UDA or whatever, that's not the same as directly insulting someone else's religion.
No, absolutely not. But at the end of the day, it is offensive. And obviously,
if they sing these,
absolutely. If they sing these songs at the football, there's no Rangers or Celtic fan will be unaware that if you sing songs that are up the IRA and all the rest of it, you're going to get the jail. You're absolutely going to get the jail, and that's been the case for a long time. So there's no news in that. And in relation to what Stuart's talking about there, people getting targeted coming off on holiday, that's actually a good thing, because what we're doing is now, if the fans aren't arrested on the day, they've got all these fancy cameras now. They do infiltrate the Green Brigade and other fans, and they are detected. Yes, they'll find out their names and know who they are. Absolutely, because most fans go to the football. They should know who we are. They know their season tickets, and the clubs will help the police, and they'll say, yes, that was Les Gray that was doing that singing that particular day. They're identified in camera, and if they're arrested when they come back on holiday, so be it.
We'll have to leave it there. We should say formally that wasn't a confession. You were just taking an example. All right, thank you both very much indeed. Now.